Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie with LRT Sports, and here with me today is Cydney Stables. Cydney is a freshman at Graceland University, where she plays not only basketball, but is also on the golf team there as well. And Cydney is kind of an anomaly because not only is she at college for sports, she has also earned a myriad of scholarships outside of the sports world as well, and is involved in her own business as well as different advocacy programs for industries outside of sports as well. So, Cydney, thank you for being with us today. And we're excited to hear everything you have to share.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so my first question right off the bat, did you expect to be a dual sport athlete when you started college?
I definitely didn't expect ever to be a dual sport athlete. I did quite a few sports in high school, but at this level, I never even expected to, play a sport in general. I started basketball when I was in third grade, so like 9 or 10. And I always had a dream, to play college basketball. And just being able to play college basketball and golf, that was definitely not expected.
So tell me a little bit about the difference between your recruiting journey and just like your journey in the sports in general, because you said basketball you started at a really young age. So what's the difference between the two sports and how you kind of went about that process?
Yeah, so there's actually a big difference between the two sports. So as you mentioned, I started basketball really young. I fell in love with the sport. I was playing on two different teams at one point throughout middle school, and then I started playing, a little bit more competitively in different leagues and stuff. And that's kind of how I think I got seen through a college coach's eyes. But golf, on the other hand, I actually started golf my senior year of high school, and it was a short season. I definitely was not expecting it to go anywhere. But I guess I just picked up the sport really fast. I had previously played softball, and some people say that it's hard to transition from softball to golf. But my brother always jokes that I was swinging a softball bat like a golf club, anyways. So maybe it was a little bit easier for me. I don't know. But I had a really good coach. He was actually our football coach as well and our history teacher. And then he decided to start a girls' golf team and kind of just asked me to join because he said, you're a good athlete. Like, why not? It's your senior year. Try something new. And I was like, okay, let's go for it. So I tried golf. I ended up doing fairly well. I competed in state, and it was a great experience. And so as far as the recruiting journey for the two sports, basketball, I was recruited through the coach. She emailed me, talked to me about my stats and whatnot, and if I was looking for a place to play. And that's when I kind of started to realize I was like, wow, I might actually have an opportunity, to play in college. I was like, that's crazy. So of course I replied to the email with like an eager heart. And then I decided to fly out to Iowa and come visit the school. But golf, on the other hand, my high school golf coach, he had great faith in me, and he thought it'd be a good idea to email Graceland School. At this point, I'd already committed to the school, already signed on for basketball. And so he decided to talk to the golf coach. And because, women's golf is not a very common sport, and especially at Graceland, they only had 3 or 4 girls on the team. They were like, you know what, like, come play for us, like, try out, see how it goes. And the coaches were super eager. And so I ended up being a dual sport athlete.
So you talked about kind of how your basketball coach reached out to you, the golf coach, you reached out to them. Was there any awkwardness or tension between the basketball coach and the golf coach, or the basketball coach saying, hey, why did you do that? Or are they more so pretty much excited to have you on both teams?
I think it was a good thing for me to be going to a small school because that communication is a lot easier. They were definitely eager to have me on both teams. I had pretty much said that basketball was my primary sport. So I was kind of just doing golf as something fun. They were looking for more people for the team. And I still am competitive in it, but it's, I had signed on for basketball previously. I committed to that first. So I had kind of made that, drawn that line before the coaches could really, argue about anything. And so I had said that basketball was my primary focus, but because golf happens to be primarily a spring sport and basketball ends typically in February, I was talked to them and they decided that we'd be able to make things work. So they were both very eager and kind of just excited to have someone there doing two different sports and ready to start the seasons.
And I'm guessing you're the only one who's on both the golf and basketball teams.
Yes, yeah.
That's pretty cool. I feel like it's not a very common combination.
No, it's definitely not. And being a dual sport athlete in general isn't very common. We do have a girl on our basketball team who also does cross country, but I think that's the only other crossover that we have.
Nice. So how does training work? So like in the off season, do you practice both sports or mostly basketball? And during basketball season, have you been practicing golf? And what do you plan on doing during golf season?
Right. So that was a big toss up. So the golf actually has a season in the fall as well. It's kind of like their preseason practice season. They don't go to like, the championship or anything, but you do go to tournaments. And so I was actually practicing basketball and golf at the same time. So the way basketball worked here is that we had the first week of classes. We didn't have practice or anything. It's just kind of for us to get adjusted to, being back in school again. And then the second week, we actually started practice. And so the way our preseason worked is we had practices in the morning and then in the evening. So every other day we had a practice in the morning and a practice in the evening. And our morning practices were at like 5 a.m. Because we had to work around the school schedule. So I would go to basketball practice, or I guess we weren't technically in the gym yet. We were basically just running the track and conditioning. So I would go to conditioning at, 5 a.m. and then go to all my classes. And then 4 to 6 was golf practice. So for preseason, I was like extremely busy. And as basketball started to pick up, golf started to kind of, lessen down a little bit. I actually had to miss a few tournaments towards the end of fall season because of basketball overlapping and whatnot. And they were totally okay with that. I talked to them ahead of time and they basically told me, take care of yourself, don't worry about, trying to make it to everything. So that was a really big struggle, but I talked to the coaches and we kind of worked everything out. And on top of doing, conditioning and preseason stuff with basketball, we also have to do study hall hours because they take academics like super seriously. And so they make sure that freshmen or transfers have to get so many hours in a week. And then we also do team study halls. So I was having to miss some of our team study halls to go to golf practice. But then the deal was that I had to make up the hours throughout the week. So we had to get 6 hours in a week. And then on Wednesday afternoons, 4 to 6, which is the same time as golf practice, we had a team study hall. So I actually had to get 8 hours of study hall in a week, which is basically, if you're not in class, like I was in there doing my study hall hours. And so it was extremely busy, but I think I was able to manage it and able to juggle things. The biggest thing was just communicating with the coaches and really just like chalkboard out my schedule to figure out what I need to do.
That's crazy. So that brings me to my next question. You mentioned chalkboarding. I was looking through your Instagram and I saw that your business, your Flowers by Cydney business, is still relatively active on Instagram. How did you manage that during the super busy fall season?
So that was crazy. So basically I pretty much got lucky as far as that goes. So I had booked out a wedding ahead of time. And I told them I could do it. I was just going to fly home and maybe miss like a weekend or something with school and stuff. I wasn't too worried about it. I was taking pretty much prerequisites, or well, I thought going into the school year, but I ended up taking some harder classes. And I was going to do this wedding in October. So with my flower business, I had a subscription program where you could, pay ahead of time and then I would deliver flowers each month. But that ended in June. So when high school ended, I ended this subscription program. But I still decided I was going to book out weddings or, other big events like that. So I actually had a wedding and a funeral both booked for October. And they were both like pretty much the same weekend. So I was able to do the flowers at the same time. And what happened was I ended up flying home and I told my coaches ahead of time because it happened to be the weekend right before National FFA convention. So I ended up flying home, doing the flowers that weekend, and then flying out that Monday to go to convention. So I had already told my teachers and my coaches and everything that I was going to be missing for convention because I was going to be competing there. And so it just happened to work out. I ended up missing a couple more days, flew home Saturday, did the flowers Sunday, and then flew to Indiana on Monday. So that was crazy. But as far as the other wedding flowers, I've done a couple flights home and back. But there's actually one wedding where I flew home on a Friday, did the flowers on Saturday. The wedding was on the Sunday, but I flew back on Saturday. So I had to have my parents set up for the wedding, but I did all the flowers and then they had to drive there and do all the setup. So it's been crazy, but we've been able to juggle it. And luckily now I don't have any more weddings during school. They're all summer weddings. So basically what happened with those is I ended up booking them before I had committed to a school and before I had realized I was going to be a dual sport athlete and all of that. But I was able to make it work. It was just a crazy couple of weeks for me.
That sounds crazy. I think I would crumble under that kind of pressure.
Luckily to me, flowers are a bit of a stress relief. So luckily that was a positive.
That's so cool. You mentioned FFA. Not a lot of people know what that is, but can you talk a little bit about how your involvement in FFA and in agriculture has kind of like shaped how you're able to be like dedicated to a sport and how you kind of like view kind of your commitment to like sports and school and everything else that you're juggling?
Yeah, I was actually just talking about this, but regarding the 4-H program earlier, and I was kind of looking back on my experiences, and really I dedicate, all of my leadership and pretty much the person who I am today, all of my character and everything really to those two organizations. So for those who don't know, 4-H is kind of more of a youth organization, but and FFA is, more high school age, but they're both agricultural service leadership organizations. And my work in FFA was my entire life in high school. I probably competed in every single contest possible. I had a lot of state level contests, and the one I was mentioning before was a national level. And a big part of FFA and 4-H both that really helped me to grow as a person was getting to meet new people, compete in new contests. But then also my communication and leadership skills have grown so much. I was talking about how my first 4-H experience was a pet rock contest, and how we had to dress up a rock and tell a story of this rock's life. And I remember how scared I was because I'd never spoken in front of people before. I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and that was kind of my first experience in 4-H, my first experience in communicating in general. And just looking back on that and how far I've grown to, speaking in extemporaneous public speaking at the national level, that growth is just crazy. And then on top of that, I'm also majoring in agribusiness and communications and sustainability. So all of those are derived from my 4-H experience, my FFA experience, and honestly, just growing up in the agriculture industry.
That's awesome. I feel like I've had a pretty similar experience. So I have one last question to kind of wrap things up. I heard that you have enough scholarships awarded to you for the next 4 years of school. Is that true? And if so, can you talk a little bit to how you have earned these scholarships and how you were applying for and finding scholarships to apply for?
Yeah, so that is correct. I have about 3.5 years paid for. I'm currently on track to graduate in 3 years, but I'm probably going to extend it to 4 for basketball eligibility and just not to cram up all my classes in a couple years. Make it a little easier. But I do have pretty much all of my college paid for on scholarship. And honestly, for a short answer, it was just a lot of hard work. I had been applying for scholarships since probably October of my senior year through, May, and pretty much applying for everything that related to an organization I was involved in, a company that supported the ag industry, basically looking for all education related, agriculture related, communication related scholarships. And I think it helped that I was majoring in 3 different programs because that opened up the doors for broader scholarship opportunities. And I also plan to get my master's in education. So that was a huge help too, because a lot of people want to support future educators. And, I have an entire folder in my Google Drive that's just full of just essay upon essay upon essay for these scholarships and so many different applications. And I just kept applying until I ran out of scholarships. And I was just fortunate enough that my extracurriculars, my sports, my grades in high school, backed me up to be receiving these scholarships. And I had made a lot of connections throughout high school as well. So for local scholarships, I was a fair and rodeo ambassador, and I got to meet with a lot of these organizations like the Lions Club or Rotary Club, all of these places that offer scholarships. And I got to personally meet with like the chairman of these organizations. So I really think that helped me a lot. Along with the ambassador program scholarship that they offer as well. So I just had made a lot of opportunities and connections through FFA, 4-H, fair, ambassadors, all the things I was involved in that opened the doors for these scholarship chances. And, also sports scholarships and academic scholarships from the college helped as well. I think as I was applying to Graceland, they actually upped my scholarships because they saw like the academic record and all the things I put in. I also did, community college classes in high school. So that helped with my GPA and everything too. And I got a big scholarship from the ag business program here at Graceland. So I think everything coming together from all of my connections and all of the things I participated in high school helped to add up to roughly, 3.5 years of college paid for. And I'm just extremely blessed for all of the opportunities, because I definitely would not be going to this school if I didn't have the funding or the scholarships for it. So it's been a great opportunity.
That's really awesome. So I am going to wrap it up with that.